see.
It says it's streaming and I don't see
Awesome.
it yet. I don't see it yet.
Sometimes you got to refresh it a couple times.
So give me a second here. Okay.
Welcome everyone that's joining. And we are just going to figure out the text. So
Yeah.
give us a moment.
Yes, hold on here. Share it to my page. Give me a second here. Bam. And
I love that I can hear all the boops.
yeah. Oops.
I'm sharing it on my MeWe as well.
Great. I do that later.
I don't think there's a lot of people there, but there are a few I know for sure are on MeWe and not on Facebook. So
That's totally cool. Let me just see here. Well, I can see the live. Oh yes, I just don't see our pictures yet. It's all black. Yes.
I'll
Ready
share it
to,
out.
yeah. Do I
Welcome.
have to do something on my phone?
You can just like,
Ignore.
yeah, if you've shared it already, then you could turn it off. Otherwise, it might be just
Oh,
distracting.
see myself.
And not on Facebook.
Okay. I see myself on Facebook. Okay.
Distraction.
Oh my goodness.
First of all, it is so wonderful to be in this space with you. Yeah, I just want to take a moment because I'm like, oh, this is so special. Welcome everybody. This is a special live indeed. I'm here with Ute Lupertz from Pet's Point of View. I've been friends with Ute. See, I want to say Ute for over a year. She's actually helped me a lot with my cat Rosie, and so many things. And I'm sure we'll get into some of that. But yeah, she does work with animals and particularly around the transition process and just really, really beautiful work. I know, I mean, you've helped me so much already. And yeah, just thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you do in general for this world, for our wonderful animal friends, and yeah, all the help that you've and support that you've given me so far, because it has been absolutely wonderful. And I'm excited to explore this topic with you. I know it's cats, but it's also other creatures. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm totally thrilled that we are together here, alive. So I just wanted to clarify for people that might not have caught this. When we talk about transition, we talk about the death of the physical body. So some people, there are all these different terms that people have, and they are often also a little different for animals. And we might get into that. And I have some opinions about some of the wording that we are using. And the terms other creature refers to all the other animals that some of us love and cherish. So I love dogs just as much as cats, and horses just as much as dogs and cats. And I also have a little parrot here in my house. So I'm not just one species girl. But I think there's something very, very mystical about cats. And you are a cat lover and a cat person. And I started out as a cat person, and now I'm like bi or whatever you want to call it, so my repertoire expanded. And I worship cats. I can say that. I don't just love them, I worship them. So that's an opening statement.
I love that so much. And yeah, my first question is like, how is it for you working with cats versus dogs versus like your parrot, for example, or other people that have a horse or these other animals? Like, does your approach change, or like, what's your experience like with the different types of animals?
Let's talk about dogs and cats for right now, because horses have they're their own mystical school. Every animal is, so I don't want to just say that. I want to say in terms of companion animals, traditionally those are dogs and cats for most of us. And so I find that it is easier for a lot of people to see themselves mirrored in dogs, for the simple reason that it's easier for us to read facial expressions. Okay. And also a disclaimer, whoever is listening to the live or the replay, I will use some very general descriptions. And I say that with respect. I also want to apologize ahead of time. Every animal, every human being, every soul, every tree is an individual. Okay, so when I talk about cats as a species, dogs as a species, I'm fully aware that doesn't apply to every single dog, to every single cat. So I often think of dogs like it's easier for us to project our human emotions because you can really see a facial expression change, right? And I sometimes compare dogs with like when a dog who is not under socialized gets lost. They do what I would do when if I were on the street. I would go beg from house to house, and my dogs beg to anytime anybody comes to my house. Hi, my mom never feeds me. Do you have a crumb? Can I lick your pants? I want to see what breakfast you had. Okay. So it's a little bit easier to identify for a lot of people with behavior, emotions of dogs in general. With cats, there are all these ideas that seem to make them less accessible. Number one, it is much harder for us to read a facial expression. You know, you can see a sad dog. I can see a sad Skylar. You can see a sad Ute or happy Ute, right? So to understand a cat who isn't maybe readily enticing affection, because we have often pets because we are so needy, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. It's just, let's call it what it is, right? And they fulfill so many needs for us, right? So there are so many things about cats that I feel are more misunderstood or can be more misunderstood, right? Because it's harder to kind of detect how does my cat feel, you know, unless they are very expressive with hissing or claws when they're not happy about something over and they feel threatened. So, and then there are also things about cats that end up getting lost or on the street. There is this idea that they can fend for themselves, and I want to say that for the most part, that's not true. Yeah, but people kind of go like la 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 la, and I live in a neighborhood, in a nice neighborhood, but the street next to mine is what we call cat alley. So there were countless strays, and there was a feral colony. So I had a lot of interactions with the neighbors, and a lot of people, because they didn't know any better, thought the cats are just fine. You know, they catch a bird, they catch a mouse, and then they have dinner. And that is not true for most cats. Only on the rare occasion is it actually that they eat a mouse or eat a bird. One of mine did when he was still a gang member on the streets, you know. He would have, yeah, he would go to the drive-by tree and say, okay, you. And he actually caught birds and he ate them. But, you know, he was one of the smartest cats I ever known, so.
That's so funny. I ran into a dog all the time in my building. People have them in the building and in the area, and I was like, it looked like a very wise dog, or it's like it knew what it was doing. Like it had that like, I'm messing with my owners, but I know what I'm doing. And I mentioned it to them, so we're in the dialogue, and they were like, actually, we think this is like the stupidest dog. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that this dog actually knows exactly what it's doing. Anyway, just popped into my mind when you said that. It's very interesting what you said about cats not maybe being able to fend for themselves. Is that more like in a city, or because I feel like if they were in maybe like not a busy city, they'd have more access to other like wild animals and stuff, or does that make a difference?
I don't know, because I don't live in the wild, right? So cats can survive for a really long time if they get lost or they disappear, you know, they people lose, they get out of the house and they don't come back. So I cannot answer that reliably. I've worked with a lot of cats who were gone for a long time and they came back and they had lost a lot of weight. So they didn't have the all-you-can-eat buffet that they would use, you know, with a few exceptions. One is my famous cat, Bodhi, who actually survived for a long time. He was also scrawny, but I saw him actually hunt and eat. you know, because the food in my house was too processed for him or something, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think it's like when they're used to being outside and having that, then that change. Like Rosie's always been an indoor cat, so it's like she doesn't really know what she's missing, I guess. But I guess once they go outside, then it's a whole new.
Yeah, but I want to just say, in general, cats domesticated themselves. They made that choice a long time ago, which means the instincts are there, but they don't just have enough to eat if we ignore them. So I would double check.
That's interesting.
I
Yeah.
would double check, you know, and even there are some cats that live in barns and horse barns, you know, and they all do also mouse management, but they still get fed, you know. So just a myth that I think is not very realistic.
Hmm.
So
Makes sense.
yeah.
So what about like in terms of us being able to communicate with our animals? Like, do you see a difference between cats and dogs?
Yes, very much. So you know, someone once said to me, dogs are our friends, cats are our rulers, we are their subjects. And I mean that, you know, in a when I talk about this, it's kind of funny. And then at the same time, there is something so amazing about cats. And that is why I like them. And what I love about cats in particular is I cannot as readily manipulate them or train them as I can do manipulate or train dogs. And all of the training that we do with other animals, that's a separate topic. That's a good thing, right? In order for me to have a relationship with a cat, it has to be on the cat's terms. I love that. It challenges me to figure things out that my human DNA, my human intellect, my human brain, my human instincts don't fully understand. I like that. I like being in this. I have to learn to think like a cat to some extent. Okay, and we have the cuddly cats, we have the cats that do this, we have the cats that do that, in the sense of, like, currently I have one cat after the three amigos all checked out together a little while ago. And Esme is easy, you know, she is easy. Does she like to be picked up? Nope. Okay. And then sometimes when I talk to clients, they complain about that. And I'm like, for a lot of cats, it is unsafe when we lift them off the ground. When they go up, that's a different thing. That's their own decision. They can survey their territory and what have you, you know? So I cannot just say, oh, it's a cute kitten or a cute whatever, you know, adult cat. Let me pick you up. And the cat goes like, ah, you know? So I have to really think like a cat to connect with them. And thinking doesn't mean it's up here. You know, I observe them, you know, how do you play? Are you a ground hunter, you know, the mousers, or are you high above? And a lot of cats do both, by the way, you know? And so how can I engage with you so that you don't get bored to pieces living in my house and you're just a kind of four-legged thing that is not a human? How can I enrich your life? Because you enrich mine, I know that. And how can I understand that it really has to happen on your terms? Is it okay if I tell you one little story, just one example?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and you know, this is not as far fetched as it might sound. So a client of mine, he had this old ornery cat, big old boy cat that he inherited from his parents, and he took the cat with him to the city and all of that. And the cat was kind of okay. And then he said, but he's getting grumpier and grumpier and this and that. And there were also some health issues, which is as we talked about as well. And I said, you know what? Showed me a photo. And then there are all these adjectives, grumpy, this and that. And maybe that's true. I am trying, if I'm aware enough to stay clear of adjectives, I try to describe behavior. Okay, what do I actually see? What does Rosie actually do? What does Esme actually do when I try to pick her up, which I don't, because No, she doesn't like it, right? And when I say she doesn't like it, that means she's wiggling her way right back to the floor. And then she throws herself on her back, and I have permission to pet her belly. And with this client who had this old grumpy cat, and then they also had young children, that made it a little bit more interesting to negotiate what everybody needs. And I said to him, okay, when you go home, this is really no joke, go to your cat, bow down and say, I know you were worshipped in Egypt. I know you remember this. This was a particular situation where I just had this gut feeling. This is what was supposed to happen. And I trust my gut more than my brain. My brain was kind of like, yeah, whatever, you're a crazy lady. And I'm like, yeah, brain, I hear you. Okay. So he went home and he did, I don't know whether he bowed, but he said, I really looked at my cat. I mustered up more respect. And I said, I know you're regal. I know you were worship. And he said, his entire demeanor changed. Yeah, he didn't suddenly become cuddly, this, that, and the other, but he relaxed. There was something in the soul of the cat that was recognized. Yeah. And does that apply for every cat? I don't know. If you who are listening, watching us, have a cat, try it and see what happens. Doesn't hurt. You don't have to yell it from the rooftop so that people think, what are you saying here? It's just something, there is something so profoundly majestic about cats. I find them absolutely beautiful, naturally beautiful. And when I can have that reverence, for me, it's really about reverence and devotion. And that doesn't mean I'm a pushover, but I am a devotee of my cats. It is such a beautiful relationship because they can really be who they are. Does it make sense?
It does. Yeah. I was just thinking then they can really relax. It's like they feel like they're being heard, especially if they have, like you said, there's a memory there. It's like what the heck am I doing here? Don't you know who I was, what I've been? And it sounds like just that acknowledgement was almost like enough to just
For some cats, and all cats are different, but I find my awareness of this natural ability to meditate, I mean, we know cats sleep a lot, and I am prone to assume that they don't just sleep, they trance out, they can journey, and then they come back and say, okay, I'm back here. You and I, we have to do workshops to learn how to do that. Our dogs are like, I'm hungry, I'm not mystical. And cats are like, okay, I'm going into the zone. And then they're in the zone, and then the zone with each other sometimes if they have companions that they choose to get along with.
Yeah, the Zen vibes with the cats, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember you were mentioning something about like meditating with your cat. Like, how would that look? Because I feel like I naturally just do that anyway with Rosie. Like, if I'm in a space with her and just connecting, like words don't need to be said. Like, we are just in the flow in that space, and it feels very meditative. Is it just natural like that?
Is it natural for you to do that?
Well, it feels natural for me. I guess anybody who's sort of maybe wondering about meditating with cats, or does it take effort? Is it just a space of being, presence?
Okay, so let me just say, meditation is also one of those words that we throw around a lot, myself included. I'm guilty of that as well. I would say anything that you do where you enter a zone where you can be chill and relaxed. Okay, that could be watching a movie, could be reading a book, could be knitting or crocheting, whatever you do, or doing a puzzle, I don't care. I find sharing space with a cat and letting them be, while I am, is meditation, right? I am doing this very intentionally because, my dogs need to be let out to go potty, and I have go for walks and all of that. And my parrot and we have different rituals, but for me to be in the zone, I mean, and it's like Esme, for example, my current kitty, she has a thing and I can almost set the timer. I don't know why she does it and I don't feel the need to know. I'm a night owl, so I stay up when I get away with it really late at night. And I kid you not, sometime between midnight and 1 in the morning, when I'm up, it's her time. And then she kind of comes to me and goes to the one spot on my body. Okay, on my left side, always on my left side. There are two reasons, I think. One is my left side needs a little bit more healing because I have been dealing with an injury on my left side that is a slow process to heal. And also my dogs are on my right side. But Esme chooses the spot that one of my other cats before he died, actually two of them, that was their kind of station where they kind of got close to my body. And Esme, who can do all kinds of things, by the way, because she's very agile and she likes to do hair when she's on the couch. She's really good at that. I could, she wants to have their hair done by her. So, but there is that time, and when you look at all of the symbolism around the midnight hour, Esme, like a clock, that's when she comes to me. And I'm like, okay, that's really awesome. That's just in my house, that's just in my house. But I think it's really fascinating to observe patterns. For me, I'm fascinated with patterns in, when I have to solve a problem or when I want to understand something. It allows me to step back from my narrow tunnel vision, and that is her pattern. And I'm so happy. And also when I go to bed, she always has to check on my face. There's something about my face that she has to make sure. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, my face is still my nose and everything. And then her way, it's just her way of making sure I'm tucked in. Oh. And, I love that. It's an Esme thing, I love that.
That's adorable. My heart is exploding. So I something I'm curious about, because you mentioned your previous, I think 2 of the cats would go on your left side before. So kind of 2 questions. One, I'd love to hear more about reincarnation and what your beliefs are around that when it comes to pets. And 2, do you have you experienced your previous, with any of your animals, more specifically those 2 cats, like their energy coming in or any patterns where it's like, oh, they're around? And yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're totally around. All 3 of them. They're totally around. So the first part was
just about reincarnation in general.
Okay. So this is an interesting topic, reincarnation. Let me give you the short answer. I believe that we can come back in many different shapes and forms. And I have reason to assume that the cats can do that, the dogs can do that, you and I can do that. I feel their essence in my house. I don't sit here thinking, are you gonna reincarnate or not? That is, I'm so fulfilled in my relationships with my animals, be it in the body or in spirit. I miss the physical presence for sure. I'm not a superhuman, right? I'm not sitting here like, oh my God, please reincarnate. They fulfilled a mission in their physical form with me here. They have other missions. And what the 3 did, 2 of them were bonded. And the third was the former biker dude, Bodhi, right? They kind of got sick at the same time. And it was a really intense hospice situation for me with all 3 of them. And it also taught me more about worship and surrender and what can I do and how can I do it? How do I have to be really calm enough for the cats to accept physical interventions, injections, medications, and whatnot? And I lost my train of thought here right now. So there was just something that was so natural for them to progress into that next phase of their spiritual evolution. And it was also very natural for me to be there with them, and say, okay, we ride it out as long as we can. I'm human. I have to try everything possible. Hold on. These are not my cats. These are
I
my
hope
dogs. Thank you. Thank you. It was the mail.
not. That was going to be my guess.
Yeah, that was the mailman just came. So so I feel that we have many encounters with incarnated souls, be it human, horse, cat, dog, where there is a feeling of deja vu, or we know each other, right? I'm personally not into analyzing that as much. For me, it's more like, how can I sync up with you, Skylar, right now, with Rosie in the background, because she knows that you and I will have a meeting with her tomorrow. With my spirit cats, how can I sync up? And how can I elevate out of my, oh, I'm just a human, right? I still do all of the medical stuff that I need to do when they're sick, and that they allow me to do. But, so I'm not like saying, oh, yeah, I don't, because we're so spiritual, we don't. But so I want to share one other story, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not my own. It's just something that it was a very profound piece that I read. I have written some of my own about my cats, but it's less about that mystical reincarnation. So many, many years ago, I read an article written by a guy who had a black cat, and the cat died when he was 16 years old. And the guy wrote about this, and he had a really, really, really hard time. Okay. And then he had this very particular dream. And in the article, he talked about this dream. So in the dream, he meets this Native American chief, just really, in all of his gear, and just very like a regal chief, an authority, the leader of a tribe of sorts. And the guy in the dream says, oh my, I get chills just talking about this. Oh, I know you. And they meet and they shake hands or something. And the chief says, of course you do. We have been together. And the guy says, no. And he said, I was your cat. And the guy goes like, what? He said, what? And he says, can you, this is all dream life. Can you explain to me, if you are this big, intimidating Native American chief, why did you end up being a black cat in my life? I don't get it. And then the Native American chief said, listen, dude, I don't know whether he said dude, but I came to you as a cat because that was the only way for me to reach your heart. Mic drop. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a real story, by the way. I have a lot of real stories too, but that is for me so powerful. And I could feel it, when he's dreaming this, and it's a lucid dream, and he goes like, you're this, and then you come as that. And he said, yep, that's how I could reach you. You wouldn't have opened up to me if I had come like this. That to me sums up a lot of things that we might encounter with animals. And again, some things we totally misunderstand, especially when the animals aren't as well adjusted as we want them to be to serve our needs, our wants. And that applies to all species, by the way.
Oh my goodness, my heart. That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really, well, what it highlights for me is, most people may not realize the magic of their animal, like their pets. Yeah. And this, even the spiritual side of this, as we're kind of getting into, which I love. And it's really beautiful. And I think we, like, even myself in processing, like, Rosie's getting older, I just got some not so good news about her health and all of these things. And it's like, hearing this story, first of all, I'm like, I would love, like, I know that we're infinite beings, animals included. So it's that reminder that, like, we're journeying together, even if this is the end now, like, and this could be a finishing of a contract, and that's okay too. Like, you know, there's so much there, and so much that I'm sure, like, you know, I'm only understanding a piece of it, but it's like, it's beautiful because, well, in my case, like, I've had Rosie since she was like 7 or 8 weeks old. So like, we have been on a journey and a half together. She's been through so much with me, and even this next phase and whatever that looks like, that's part of the journey too. And there's a lot of acceptance I'm, you know, working through, about to work through. So yeah, no, I'm rambling about this now. It's just very present for me, but it's just I'm really glad that you shared that, because it helps to bring expansion around this process, and that it's not you know, just so linear.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I also feel I love to be challenged in that way when an animal is more complex and I don't have the skill set yet. You know, I love to learn, you know, and part of my learning, and this is just for me personally, is trying to think outside of my human box. And when I say think, is like, say, it didn't happen in my house, but Bodhi, who wasn't the only one of the three who was in and out, because he used to be on the streets and he was madly in love with me, but he also needed to still patrol the hood, you know, and make sure, hey, this, that, and the other bribe. It was so magnificent for me to really, there was that 1 week when he didn't show up at all. Okay. And it wasn't magnificent. It was actually like, oh, you know, his energy was absent. So Bodhi would come in and out. I would always feel his energy. And then there was that 1 week when that energy was gone. And I thought, okay, he is really ill. And often when cats that are reliable coming in and out, for those people who have in and outdoor cats, they're often hunkered down really close by. But what do? We go around and call Fluffy, Fluffy, Rosie, Rosie. That's not how we do it in the wild, you know? And I literally crawled on all fours quietly with a flashlight. And I asked my neighbors, can I look under your porch? Can I look under your this, under that, you know? And Bodhi was just invisible, you know? And I had a feeling, okay, he might choose to check out. Something happened, you know? But it's like, what can I do to really, you know? I yell at people, you know, I call a child from across the street. I might even call my dogs, you know, and with a cat, that doesn't work. I have to do things differently, and not just when they're outside. So he came back, by the way, and it turned out he had been super, super, super ill, and he, in a last-ditch effort, decided he wants to stay with me, and it's okay if I take him to the vet. And that's what we did.
But that was the one of the three, though, right?
Yes.
And I found that really interesting, and not really surprising. They all kind of got sick together, right? Yeah. Around the same time.
Yeah.
So they're not only picking up on our energy, which if you want to maybe explain a little bit more about that, like how maybe people aren't aware how much they are in tune with us and pick up on our energy and how that may affect them.
Yeah.
But they're so connected with each other as well.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Yeah, let me just say in tune with us. That's a good thing for me to mention. So with regards to cats, I want to say if you have a cat and the cat sleeps in the house with you, watch where on the bed they position themselves. You know, often, or also when you just meditate or rest or sit on the couch, right? Where do they place themselves? And it's a scientific thing that has been researched, you know, that purring can really harmonize frequencies in our bodies, you know, and I always say, pay attention to where they place themselves, you know. So are they next to your head? And that doesn't mean something is wrong if they do that, but what energy transmissions do you need in your head, you know? And also most cats that are really healthy sleep at the foot of our bed unless we need certain areas of our body infused with cat energy. I think a lot of cats can really sync up with that, you know.
Hmm.
And say when Mupi at the end of her life, and she was my queen, really, my queen, you know, she seriously, I have 2 pillows in my bed, and she slept on one pillow. I was not allowed to put my head pillow. So my head was here, hers was there. And there was something very intimate about that. And I also knew that I knew for a fact that she was very ill. So she wasn't at the foot of my bed. That's where she was. So I think that's how they sync up, you know, and cats have this sixth sense about what body part needs infusion, you know, and they just do that and just pay attention, you know, that's it. Pay attention to what they do. And it doesn't mean that something is wrong if Rosie lays, but that just means, oh, you get some Rosie infusion, natural healing energy, and you don't even have to do anything about that. With regards to the three in my house, I don't know why they were all old. Number one. And I have an idea about this, but that's certainly my own idea. It happened first, one got a diagnosis, then cat number 2, and then cat number 3. And then within 5 months, there was a time span of 5 months, you know, they each had their own ritual to say goodbye. I believe, and I say believe because I didn't sit there trying to figure it out. I surrendered. And I surrendered. I wasn't just miserable. Those people who saw me during I just did what I had to do. And it was an honor for me, actually, that they allowed me to do that many interventions. And they each had their own thing. The boys were a whole lot easier than my girl cat, who was like, no, only when it's totally necessary. I'm like, sure, right? But I felt really honored, and I knew that, okay, I wasn't expecting this. And there was something in that. They got me through this whole enchilada in 5 months. For some people, that would be the end of the world. And I'm not judging that. For me, it was what it was. It was what it was. And it was just a super, super special time for me, you know, super special time. And I could still cry with love, and just my soul is still full, you know, and it will never be empty because they raised me to be the cat person that I am. They really did, you know.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love what you said about the, like, it's a total perspective shift about, oh my God, why is this happening? This is devastating, to like, what an honor to facilitate this for them and be there for them and help them through this process. And it's like, I also feel like they chose you for that as well. Like, yeah, it's just really cool. It's just, yeah, I love the perspective shift on it, and it's helping me to process whatever this next phase looks like as well, because we really have a choice. And it's like, I know you love this work, and this is your passion, this is what you do, but it's always different when it's so close to home, right? Or, you know, like, we're human, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also want to say that whoever is in a situation right now, you included, you know, when you get a diagnosis where you know that isn't the best news, you know, or it's probably terminal, it's totally normal to feel the feels. I'm not saying, oh, it's an honor. Ugh. You know, if it's real, if you can feel that, you don't have to choose one over the other. You can grieve and be sad, you can be stressed, and it can be an honor. It can all coexist. Everything can be at the table, as I like to say. And in my house, we danced this dance together, the cats and I. And they were amazing. They were amazing. You know, I remember Marlo, the shyest of the three and the most gorgeous looking cat ever, but nobody knew because for his entire life he was hiding from anybody who entered my house. And as soon as people left, he was the demanding lover, you know, and he was really super, super, super shy. And also at the vet office, it was like the speed dial 911, you know, was, he would have liked to do that. And I was absolutely lucky. The last night of his life, he wanted to be brushed. And mind you, when cats are in tremendous pain, or anybody, not everybody likes to be massaged and brushed or touched, right? And I have this little 30-second video where I brushed him and I caressed him. And out of the three, he was the one who decided I take matters into my own paws. And he decided to die on his own on the day when the vet was supposed to come. And I knew that that was, excuse me, that was the likely option. I was just saying, you do whatever you need to do. And he did. And it was so incredible. And then Moopy, his dominating wife, cat, sat vigil with his body all day. In the evening, the vet did come because we know her, and some friends came and we all honored him, right? It was just incredible. And for me to just say, wow, you know, everybody just thought you were the scaredy boy and you made a choice. You didn't want anyone to mess with you at the very end. And that being said, also for anybody who hears this and who doesn't know me or you and I don't have, I'm not prejudiced one way or another. I just want to facilitate and support what is the wish of the animal, whether that's death with assistance, as I call it, or natural death. You know, I'm there to support that. And I try not to be in the way with my own needs and wants and this and that. So.
So how that brings up a question about the way you work. Like, so if someone's going through something, you know, maybe they've got the diagnosis or they're going through the motions of it, maybe they don't have much time left or whatever the case may be. Like, how would that process work with you in terms of how you can offer support for people?
So a lot of people contact me when that happens. And if it is early in the game, meaning you have a diagnosis, but the animal is still very much, the life force is not diminishing quite as much, I talk people through what the end case scenario could look like, you know, in the sense of think about what your options are, where you live in terms of, do you trust your veterinarian? If it's about euthanasia or burial or this or that, do your homework, because at the end, when hospice is really intense, ideally, you don't want to have to deal with that. You want to have a Google Doc or something on the fridge where you have the numbers and the pricing, if possible. And the work I do is a blend of intuitively assessing what is the life force of the animal like. And I have a particular process that I do for that. And also saying, okay, what are the things that you're doing medically? And not that I think I know what's supposed to be done, but I can say to you, for example, when you take Rosie to the vet, you could ask question number 1, question number 2, question number 3 that you might not think about because you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, your cat is stressed out and overwhelmed, for example. So I'm like, you know, we have birth doulas, and I'm like a hospice/death doula, walking alongside you, energetically supporting you, and especially supporting the animal, maybe Rosie, depending on how you and I do things, if we do things, right? and saying, okay, how is she doing? What are the transmissions that I can translate into human language? And if you are bewildered, I use you as an example here, or anybody is bewildered and say, why is she suddenly vocalizing so much? I say, let's check it out with her. And often vocalizing, for example, can be a sign of discomfort. Right? That doesn't mean everybody can give it a label and say, oh, it's this and this and this illness. Discomfort is discomfort. And sometimes we have a label for it and sometimes we don't. So how can we navigate that? Because also for humans, it's exhausting when we deal with illness of someone else in the household. Right? So it's a blend of medically being a medical intuitive, if you will, animal communication, but also very practical support. It doesn't mean, people have different preferences of what they choose to do. I had a client in England. He was one of my favorite cats of all times, Tiwi. I called him the international man of mystery, also a tuxedo, like Rosie.
Nice.
She called me initially because he had a very aggressive type of internal cancer, and she wanted to know when it's time to euthanize. And he was like, no, I'm not done yet. So we did, like, for several months, remote work. She chose some particular methods to deal with his cancer that were very different than what I would have chosen personally with my cats. Doesn't matter. He was game. And he rocked it for 6 longer months. And that was a cancer that should have taken him out sooner, according to the books, right? And I did remote work with him when she was asleep. And she says, and this is time difference, right? And she says, Ute, in the wee hours of the morning, when you did work with him, he rose up from a dead sleep, sat up, stared out the window. And then when I checked my messages, it was always the time when you tuned in with him. And I love this. And he was rocking it. And it got pretty intense, with the cancer. And then eventually, if it had been up to him, he would have died on his own. And she just said, I cannot do this. It's too hard on me. And he's like, Mom, whatever you need to do, it's fine. It's fine. And she had a beautiful team of doctors that she worked with. The first oncologist wasn't the right one. So she switched, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And she was also totally devoted to him while she exhausted all of the options that were in sync with her own belief system. And he was like, cool. I'm the king. He lived upstairs. The dogs lived downstairs. I love this dude to this day. I love this dude. And then he sent her another cat a year later. Yes.
That's awesome. And I love how you can tune into that communication, because a lot of times it's like, we don't know, like even with Rosie, as I started to notice some symptoms, it's like, well, she's just getting old. These are just getting old symptoms, right? And then it's like, oh, but these symptoms can also mean XYZ. So it's, if they're not able to communicate, then I find your service is so helpful because you can bridge that gap, sometimes with the communication when, as pet owners, we just don't know, or we might be a little too close to the situation, or we might not want to accept, maybe we're in denial, or we don't want to bring them to the vet because there's fear there, because it could be something. All these things I've experienced. But I just want to let everybody know, like, you've really helped me. Like, I went on a trip last year and I was going a little longer than I would have in the past. And we had a session and it was like everything after you tuned in with Rosie, what does she need? It's like everything that you suggested was like perfect. I had a service come in and a person that was like completely in line versus someone that had been taking care of her before. And it's like everything was just perfect. And she had all the support that she needed. And I really loved the additional, like, I always tune in with her, especially if I'm away, but having a routine, there was a recommended, like, doing it a certain amount of time and every day and having that dedicated, like I set a timer and having that communication, it was just everything, and that consistency. So
You tuned in with her remotely, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
every day, like at least, even if it was like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was, like having the consistency and having that communication, it was everything. And I remember the person that was watching her like commented in that same way, that like, they could tell that we were in communication and that she was okay. It just changed everything, really. So yeah,
Awesome.
it's
Awesome.
really, really awesome work.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Very, very cool.
So yeah, how are you feeling? Is there anything else you'd like to share? Like, were you open to taking some questions?
I'd love to take some questions if we have any. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, anybody that's with us on the live, if you can repost your question so I can see it. If you have any questions regarding this topic, or yeah, just let us know. Let me see what we got going on here. Turn that down. We have 8 people with us. Love the number. It's cute. Of course, it's 8. So yeah, if you already asked a question or if you have any questions present, let us know. If you don't, that's okay. We've got some comments, some hearts. Thanks everyone who's here with us. Gail's missing her. I've made the conscious decision not to get another cat as I'm caregiving with a very elderly mom, but I super miss having a cat.
Yeah.
And Gail's also asking, how did you get started?
With what?
With this work, I'm guessing.
Oh, with this work. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I used to work with children as a teacher, and I also used to do energy work with people, and I still do, but I don't just publicly, that's, I still do. Let me say that like this. And then I had one of these moments in my life. So I had one of these moments in my life when a mother of one of my students died, and he was 11 years old. And my best friend suddenly had to relocate to a remote region in Alaska. And I was just like suddenly totally lonely, So we knew that the mom of this boy would die, but it was like, bam, then she was gone. And then the next day my friend leaves. And this is when Mupi showed up. And so the short of it is that people knew that I'm pretty intuitive, that I can do all kinds of fun modalities that I'm using, and children are certainly great teachers to roll with the punches and to see what is what. And eventually I translated this work to the animals that showed up in my life. So I was convinced that wouldn't work. And then my animals showed me, yes, it can. So I translated a lot of the modalities that I do with people to the non-human speaking souls. So that's how I got started. And initially it all started with rehab. Marlo, my shy boy, was very sick when he was a kitten. And then I had a very abused dog, my dog Shiva. He needed therapeutic rehab. And so I started there. The spiritual component I was in the closet about for a really long time, because I thought, I don't want to be looked as a fruitcake or something. So it took me a little longer to own that. And I find that that's actually the meat of the work. Also the practical aspect, if I don't have that spiritual connection, it's just like, well, it's not interesting for me. So that's how I got started. So I translated some of the modalities that I studied and that I kind of also invented on my own, because I just did to animals. And that's how that got rolling. And also, much like the story I mentioned much earlier about the Native American chief with a cat that came back as a cat, I find that when I do intuitive sessions with humans and their animals, I am able to reach people much more easily in their authenticity when animals are the conduit. There's less resistance, there's less like, so I love that. So I'm really grateful I get to do that. And it's all, respectful, but animals, and they mirror something for us. Many people, the people that find me are more willing to listen. So I think that's a good thing.
That's awesome. There's like more of like a vulnerability there when we're connecting with our animals.
Yeah.
Like our hearts are already wide open.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, Gail said, thank you so much, Ute. I can see myself doing this at some point. That'd be pretty cool.
Cool.
Inspired.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Renee saying, every question I have asked you in my head, you've already given me the answer. That's great. So thanks for the feedback. It looks like we've shared a lot of valuable information, which is great. Yeah. Let's see if there's any more. Kimberly was just sharing a story about her cat passing with medium cell lymphoma in her intestinal tract. She had a team of doctors and an oncologist. We gave it everything we had.
Awesome.
I think that's like nice to hear. Like, something I'm experiencing is a lot of like guilt coming up. Like, I should have taken her in sooner, or I should have done this, I should have done that. And it's like remembering that we are, doing the best we can in each moment. I know I am, and yeah, that's just what's present for me right now. It's a nice reminder of that.
Yeah. Can I comment on that real quick? So you're not alone, number one. Number two, what we often forget is that we get a sudden diagnosis, right? It's like, oh, he was fine one day and then the next day not. That is like on the surface level true. It's not really true. Dogs and cats, they're designed to hide discomfort until it gets unbearable, right? Because in the wild, you don't complain to your girlfriends, or you don't go to a restaurant and, or you don't start a fight with your partner or something. In the wild, you're quiet, because that's how you survive longer than making a lot of noise, right? So they're designed to conceal that, not just because they love us, but that's also a survival thing, and I mean, different people have different thresholds of being tuned in. We have the helicopter people, and we have people that say, oh, they're just getting old. And we all do the best we can. I agree. And all I say is hone your observation skills. And that is, what do you see? What is different? And it's subtle, it's subtle. That's all I can say about that. And when you feel, oh, I should have, like, la 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 la, some of that is also that veiledness. And I've had intuitive sessions with animals who also wanted to protect their person, because the person just went through a heartache in a different area of their life, So yeah, so that's what I want to say about that.
That makes me even more sad. Thank you. I'm gonna have a good cry after this. That's for sure. Oh my goodness. Yeah, just getting some thank yous for the opportunity to share this. We're up to 14 people. By the way, we know that, anyway, I'm not going to comment on Facebook and what's happening, but I'm grateful that we are able to share it now and then on the replay with more people, and whoever is meant to hear this message will. And I know, like, yeah, just I can't even, no words for how much you've already helped me, and I know will continue to help us, Rosie and I, on this path. It's just like invaluable work. It's really, really special.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna see if we have more questions. Don't be sad. Thanks for the support, everyone. Yeah, we're just getting lots of thank yous. So how about, is there anything else you'd like to share before we go on to where people can find you?
Maybe one thing, and I want to ask you, do I have permission to say something directly to you right now?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So you said, I'm sad, and I say, be sad. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay. Yeah. It's not just one or the other. It's just something, I don't want to get too deeply into what people do, but we are all trying to comfort each other in a way to make it better and go away. And I'm like, let it be. That's also surrender. Let it be.
Mm-hmm.
And Rosie knows what you feel. The dogs, my dogs know what I feel. You know, animals know what we feel. Just be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that. And whoever said don't be sad, I know that came from a beautiful, loving place. So no judgment there. It's just we are so quick to try to make it better. And I'm like, we don't have to make anything better or worse. We can just let it be.
Yeah, it's a thank you for sharing that, and it's an important reminder for me because one thing I've been working on just in my own healing journey is like this idea of like needing to hold it to feeling the need to hold it all together, to be strong and I've processed a lot around that and I've continued to, but it tends to be a default, I've got to, yeah, like I said to my friend earlier, they shared with you like I'm good right now on the outside, but inside I'm like crumbling, and it's like I will allow myself to process this, and it's okay to do that. And I know I'll have less backlog if I allow this process versus letting it, till then what happens? We explode. So yeah, I've shed a lot of tears so far, and I will continue to allow myself the space and the process that I need.
Good for you.
And it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what perfect timing for this live. It's like, can't make this stuff up, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. It's a nice
Mm-hmm.
reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Wish I could give you a big hug. I'm sending like big energetic hugs to you right now. And wow.
Let's do this.
I also love that your dogs made an appearance. I was like, how perfect was that? And I could hear your bird in the background. So
yeah, it's my house. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, this has been such a joy. Yeah. Anything else? What else? Is there anything else you want to?
I think for now, that's plenty. We touched on a lot of different things, and then I see if people have more questions, post comments on my page, on my Facebook profile, or reach out to me if you're my Facebook friend in a Facebook message, or go to my website. You can always ask for a free consult, introductory consult. Yeah.
That's awesome that you're offering that. Yeah, thank you for doing that. I would highly recommend if anyone's feeling called to work with you, like reach out and book that, and just have that discovery session to see if it might work. And what I'll do, I'll post the links to your Facebook page where you're directing people to respond, and then your website as well. We'll add that in. It's pets. Can you say it? petspointofview.com? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Dash. Yes. Yeah, we do it in the comments.
Perfect. And we'll put the YouTube channel there as well, which, by the way, everyone will also upload. Well, you'll do that part. I'll send you the video, but we'll have it on that channel too, all the things. And yeah, just thanks everyone for being here, for being part of the discussion, part of this space, or those joining us after. I look forward to doing this again with you in the future. I love sharing this space with you, and infinite thank yous, and I love you.
Oh, I love you right back. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, enjoy the rest of your day or night or whatever it is, wherever you are, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye, everyone.